Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
I'm so happy to have you on the show today. You and I have known each other for quite some time. We got familiar with each other through the startup
Yes.
initiatives. And I wanted to talk to you today because entrepreneurship is something that I don't know if you really sought it out or if it just kind of came to you. But you've been involved in quite a few initiatives that have have made you find the path of self-employment and building your own, flexibility and building your own wealth and building your own, health and all that. So you have quite the story, and that's why I wanted to chat with you today, because so often people think, oh, I have to be in the tech space or I have to know what the business is going to be. And you've kind of let it come naturally to you a little bit. So maybe tell our viewers kind of who you are and how that journey has brought you to today.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm so grateful for being here and appreciative of the opportunity. So people often say thrust upon us. Well, that's absolutely what the universe, if you will, or God or divine or what any number of people that I work with talk about or look to for answers. That's where all of this came for me. And I'm let's just say we're within weeks of one of the big numbers in our lives, the big 50. And so over that maybe 30 some odd years of working and being out there, I have, I've gone down a number of paths. I've explored a lot of different things. Part of it is through a diagnosis of mine that came late in life, about 5 years ago, of ADHD, this high intellect ADHD with a touch of OCD, they call it. And it's, as it's been explained to me and as totally makes sense, it makes me look for a number of different things. I'm always seeking answers. I'm always looking for new opportunities, new experiences, and so on. And so all of that over my life has always also had me interested in what other people were doing, right?
Mhm.
So if Clarissa was going to start a business or was taking on a new career or starting something new, she might be talking to me about it. I become very interested in it, and maybe I help you in some way. Maybe we talk about it. Maybe I sort of mentor you a little bit, or I ask you some questions that, maybe your friends and family are saying, oh, well, that's good for you. And yes, that's perfect for you. Go do that. And I'm looking at you going, are you sure that's really good for you? What brought you to this decision? And not that I'm judging you, or not that I'm asking you to, rethink it to the point where you don't do it, but I'm asking you sometimes some of the questions that others have maybe been too nice, if you will, to ask. And only because I care. I want to see everybody, enjoy the life that they're here to enjoy, whether it's in entrepreneurialism or, as a career, as a parent, stay-at-home parent, who knows what a person's doing. But I've always enjoyed seeing the person do that in their journey. And so for me, having worked through a number of different scenarios in my life, every single one of them, as I can see over this 30 years now, has given me some portion of the experience to put together, who I am and what I'm doing now, which is, full time as a you can call me any half dozen or a dozen things. Some people call it a coach. I'm registered as a naturotherapist. I'm trained in the mind, right? So mindfulness and cognitive behavior and rational motive behavior therapy, neurolinguistic programming, and so on. And I'm working through my degrees for a doctorate in natural medicine, which will then move on to a second degree in behavioral neuroscience. So in all of that, I help you get inside your mind and find the answers that maybe you feel. And for sake of, having experienced so many different industries in my life and watched so many people on their own extraordinary journey, I feel it's sort of been laying the bedrock, if you will, right, for
Mhm.
me to move into this.
Right. And in laying that bedrock, and I want to touch on that because, when adults get a diagnosis of adult ADHD or, OCD or things like that, we can sometimes, your mind can go back and say, oh, I get it. Maybe I'm being diagnosed as an adult. But so often, as an adult, we might think, well, there goes that,
Completely.
I have to deal with this. So how can I manage? So you've kind of taken your diagnosis and kind of, brought it along the path, your entrepreneurial journey, and said, okay, how can I take what I know now with this and the way my mind works and be able to, to coach other people through, the things that they need to be coached through.
Yeah.
What other, when, I know that you've been involved in a lot of industries over the course of your career, what other lessons have brought you to this point that you can kind of now coach others and be able to help others through their journey?
I think probably one of the biggest ones, and it's going to sound maybe a little bit like a cop-out, but one of the biggest ones is to trust yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's so much to be said about trusting ourselves, and whether you're coming at it from a a more spiritual or religious sort of aspect, whether you're coming, that gut feeling type of scenario that we talk about, which is a neurological thing, all of those opportunities are, are unconscious, or the universe, or a mix of whatever you might want to believe in, experiences that have been stored and kind of put together in your unconscious mind to say, okay, we're ready for this next time. All of those things keep reminding us when we're walking into something that's extraordinary or could be extraordinary for us, or maybe quite detrimental, right? And so what I say to people all the time is, especially if we're starting, a session, and maybe it's the first time or the third session and we're starting to get into things, and I say, well, so what brought you to that? It's like, well, I had this feeling, and so I think maybe I'd better just, tell them no. And it's like, but I, in our first couple of sessions, you told me that this was what you've wanted to do your entire life. Now you're getting ready to tell them no, since you've been offered. What is that about that, that instinct? Well, here's what it is, or here's what that is. And we explore that more deeply. Sometimes it's a little irrational. Sometimes it's based on, something in the past that's, tricking us a little bit, if you will. And we need to be able to move past that and find some acceptance and go after what we want. Other times it's very real. And maybe what we've wanted to be our entire lives was based on someone else's want. Right? Maybe it was parental, family, community. Maybe it was the school we attended that sort of guided us on a particular path and made something seem really great. But all the while, somewhere down deep here, which is connected to here, we've sort of decided that maybe this wasn't it, right? And there's something there that's making us wonder or be curious. As a firefighter, I can tell you that, or past firefighter and EMT, I guess almost 12 years in that, volunteer, that I can tell you that that's very real. Right? All of that training and then all of those experiences do come together, that when you see it's not all like they say on TV, but when you see a firefighter on TV saying, I have a gut feeling about this is bad, or this is, good, or this is the right way, or this is the wrong way, let's move, that becomes very real. No different in entrepreneurialism, right? If you're stepping in and you're about to take that next step, or you're about to sign documents on a loan, or you're about to take a new lease, or you're about to do something, if there's something that is nagging at you that just doesn't feel right, get it in check, right? And I'm not saying that the gut is necessarily right, but I'm saying explore that, right? Call your mentor, call your whomever, your brother, whoever it is that you talk to about these types of things. Talk to someone who's in the industry, but maybe not even in your local area if you're worried about competition or that their views might be swayed, but speak to someone that you can level that gut feeling with, and not someone who's going to tell you what it means, but someone who will allow you to give it back and forth a little bit, and who can be there to listen to you so that you can think it out. Because I'm a huge believer in any of the sessions that I do and any work that I do with clients, I don't provide answers, right? I ask a lot of questions. I help you as a support mechanism when you're needing to work through things, but I don't have the answers for you. You have the answers for you. Right? So that gut check is certainly something that I've relied heavily on over my life. The times that I jumped quickly at a gut check or didn't follow it properly are typically times when I've not fared the best, business and in life. And I can certainly say that, the times that I've taken to really follow up on them and to listen and to really key in on it were the times where, I've known that it was for the best. And so I would say that for anyone.
Right. And so touching on that, I have two questions for you. How important were mentors to you, as you've gone through your journey, now that you're coaching others, but do you yourself have your own mentors that you can look back on, throughout your career, but also today, that when you have those gut feeling moments that, you can turn to somebody? Is that still something that you reach out for?
Completely. And what I like about mentors, and this is no discredit to those of us who are quote unquote coaches, what I love about mentors is that typically a mentor has nothing to gain other than maybe some self-gratification in being able to give back, of their years of experience, right? Or their opportunities, or their findings, and they can help guide someone who is looking to do something very similar. And it's a really amazing feeling. And having done it myself, I can fully attest to that. But what I love about it is that vested interest without agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if I could put it the best way possible, without, I'll be a little diplomatic. So the downside, or the question always becomes, of a coach is, what does the coach have in this? How much am I paying the coach, and is the coach just giving me answers, based on their perspective, right? Their cognitive bias, or are they giving answers based on where I'm trying to come from or where I'm trying to go? And again, that's no discredit to coaches. We're all human beings, however, and cognitive biases drive our lives, right? If we're not aware, if we're not conscious of it. And so what I love about that mentorship relationship and scenario is the fact that, listen, I'm here for you. I'm here to share what I've done. I'm here to listen to what you're looking to do. If I can impart some wisdom or advice, I will, but I will never tell you what it is that you need to do. And I truly love the genuine nature of that relationship. Do I have them? Absolutely. Every good coach has their own coach. I do choose mentors, typically more than coaches per se, but at the same time, I also have a number of relationships where, there's a lot of give and take.
Mm-hmm.
So I help them maybe with their mind. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like an exchange of services sort of scenario through our relationships where, they help me when I need to banter something around, because I can certainly get lost in my head being a head guy.
Right.
The irony of being a head guy is that you can get lost in your head very easily.
Mm-hmm.
But having that relationship to be able to, go back and forth and draw on is certainly very special. And I feel it's imperative, right? Because our spouses are amazing, and they're, if we have a spouse, they're amazing, or maybe our, kids, or especially if they're adult kids or whatnot, people we can talk to and relate stories to, and, tell them about our day. But there's also a very personal connection there where, people can, they can want to protect you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can get angry if they feel someone else has slighted you or hurt you. There are all sorts of emotions that can get involved that typically a mentor doesn't bring to a relationship,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, that's what we do with Oasis is, like provide mentors with,
Yeah,
specific
completely.
skill sets. And so many times, it's just like doing market research, right? And people say, well, where do I do my market research? I talk to my family, and you say, well, family and friends are going to either one, tell you like it is, and maybe just destroy your hopes and dreams, or pump it up and make it
Right.
be like, you can, climb the highest mountain when maybe, you haven't even, tied your shoes yet.
Maybe it's not the
So
mountain you should be on either.
that's
So
right.
yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So my other question for you is how, and sometimes this is an uncomfortable one,
Good. I love
but,
those.
how has failure, and maybe, I know it's not the greatest F word, but if we've learned anything from our friend Rivers Corbett, we have to talk about it. How has failure, played a part in where Joe Trevors sits
Yeah.
today? Have you
And
learned?
speaking,
Yeah.
no, sorry, go ahead.
No, and I mean, I'm not saying like, has failure played a part? Have you faced failure? Have you failed fast? And how does that play a part?
Yes, yeah, yes, and yes. And certainly Rivers is one of those mentors. One of those people who, if I want to get real and just and drop a number of f bombs of any variety, he and I will connect, and we'll have a very open conversation. We've always been that way, so it's kind of a neat scenario. I think that, so first of all, yes, has failure played a part in my life? Absolutely, without question. I feel that, probably my last 5 years, which has been the majority of my study of the mind, right? It's when I really started looking more into, neurology, and I've run the gamut on this stuff. I mean, I study neurology. I also study holistic health and, neurofeedback and digital biofeedback. And then over here, I also study, Ho'oponopono and Reiki, and I'm certified in all of those things, which is more of a spirituality or heart-centered based type of medicine or belief system, if you will, and meditation being right in the middle,
Mhm.
which is, mindfulness. And so I think that the study of all of that has allowed me to be very real with myself around failure.
Mm.
And if I could encourage anyone to do anything when it comes to failure, it would be, to find that level of acceptance. right? A whole level of acceptance, and that's, acceptance is one of the pillars that I teach in mindfulness, of course. So I'm a little biased there, but that level of acceptance is full of both opportunity and awareness, right? And so you can look back at a situation that you were involved in, that where you quote unquote failed, and like you, I'm not big on the word, because in its in its dictionary sense, if we turn to Webster's, then certainly did the business cease to exist, or did that career end for me at that point? Could that be considered a failure? Absolutely. However, did I move forward? Am I still progressing? Did I take what I experienced there and am I using it for some other scenario now in moving forward? The challenge comes when we let it hold us back, right? And that's where that level of acceptance provides opportunity, right? If I can look at that, and listen, you started the show with this. It was, how I landed here, how I officially landed here, how I officially hung my shingle out and said, you know what, screw it, I'm a coach. I've been doing this behind the scenes for years and years. I've not ever taken a cent for it, and I've just been quietly doing it if friends or family or someone sends someone to me because they used me and they want someone to get some help. But when I finally hung the shingle, it was because after years I decided to get back into, and the story, I got back into finance, doing small business, finance brokerage for a Canada-wide brokerage firm. Was signed on as senior executive vice president. Things were, launching, ramping, everything was going to go well. And then the universe decided to throw COVID at me and say, no, not quite yet. That coaching thing that you've been doing is really kind of cool. Maybe we're just going to shut down the entire small business funding platform across the country for a few months and see what happens, which is what happened in, March, April, May, when all small business lenders, privately held business lenders, said, whoa, wait a minute, we don't even know if we can lend right now, because most of these small businesses don't even qualify anymore because everybody's books have changed, right? Income has changed, everything's happened. So there I sat with a fancy business card and no work to actually do. Other people started calling me and saying, what do I do? I'm stuck. What do I do? I'm scared. What do I do? I'm anxious. What do I do? I feel I'm bordering on depression. What do I do? And then so I decided to move forward into this. So what could have happened, though, we all know the story and how it ends. What could have happened is I could have spent the last 6 months sitting in the basement, alone in the dark. And for those of you who are doing this right now, I absolutely sympathize and empathize with you. And I would encourage you to reach out to someone just to take that first step to try to get back to some form of normalcy. But what I could be doing is sitting in the basement in the dark, lamenting, ruminating over the fact that, an industry that I loved, an industry that I, in one way, shape, or form, had almost 30 years of varying experiences in, literally disappeared in front of my eyes when I had probably the biggest opportunity I was ever at that point going to have had in my life, right? Being named senior executive vice president, moving forward, all these different things, travel across the country again, starting to work. And then it was gone. So maybe it's a family business that you've inherited, that maybe you weren't ready for the particular position that you were in running that business, right? And to jump back for a quick second, and I don't want to run us over on time, but I know you mentioned, after I mentioned about the ADHD diagnosis, and you said, sometimes that can hold us back. It's the same thing. What I had to do in that diagnosis was understand a few of the things that I'm very, very well not suited for through my diagnosis, or how my mind is wired, let's say. And I am a big believer in being able to rewire our mind, but it also takes time. But I'm not a paperwork guy. I'm not an admin guy. I'm just not that person. And it's some of the things that I struggled with my entire life, but I just wouldn't ever admit it, right? Because all of the other people around me said, well, if you're ever going to do this, and if you're ever going to be successful in that, and if you're ever going to be an entrepreneur, if you're ever going to be anything, you have to get up at 4 a.m. You need to read 2 books before breakfast. You need to then do this. You need to then do that. And you need to be good at your paperwork. You need to be able to administrate, your business. You need to be able to, well, you know what? That's all crap. That's the nicest word that I can use probably on the show, to say that we need to step back from all of the should haves and would haves, and all of the people who are using their cognitive bias to tell you, or their experiences to tell you how things should be, and for you to instead do a check on what works for you. So if I'm not good at administration, if I'm not great at paperwork, then what I needed to understand was, first of all, accept that, because I can't be everything, nor can
Mhm.
you, nor can anybody else, no matter how hard we try. And then we can find the person who can support us in that,
Yeah.
because there are people training every single day and BCC to be administrative, to
Mhm.
be, accountants, to be able to do bookwork, to be able to do all of these different things.
Mhm.
I can hire that person. I can find that person. And that allows me to focus on this particular aspect of my work, right?
Mhm.
My creativity, my passion, my gifts.
Yeah.
No different than any single entrepreneur out there in the world right now. If it happens to be, amazing behind the wheel of a semi,
Mhm.
if it happens to be amazing at coding a computer, if it happens to be, any variety of things, planting seeds in the spring, focus on that, whether there's a failure in the past or not.
Mhm.
Learn from that, bring all of that forward and say, I now understand all of that. I'm accepting of myself and my situation. I'm accepting of the past, which then opens up my opportunities for the future. And then encircle yourself with those who can support you,
Mhm.
instead of sitting around with a party of all of the things that didn't go well, or all of the people who think that they need to tell you what to do because it's what was best for them.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And that's an excellent piece of advice to end on. We're sitting in the middle of January in the cold during a pandemic in New Brunswick, and there's a lot of you know um, there's a lot of people feeling really bad right now,
Absolutely.
and all we can do is lift them up and
Mm-hmm.
find that we can always find enemies, but let's
Sure.
find the friends and be able to rally around businesses like yourself and reach out. So Joe, how can people reach out to you? How can they find you?
Well, considering I can't have my makeup people in, you can see the real me right now. So glare and all, you'll see me on any social media. If you see this great big round thing on social media, it's me. Feel free to friend me or send me a message. You can also find me at abundantmind.ca, which is my website. A lot of my social media is tagged or branded the same way. So you can find me pretty much anywhere from LinkedIn to Instagram and on the web and the Facebook and Twitter and that sort of thing. I always try to be as responsive as possible when people try to reach me. However, there are times where I'm in session, and most of those are at least an hour, right? But send me a message anytime, even if it's just to say, listen, I just need 5 minutes. Can we chat via Messenger, because I'm really having a hard time being inside my head. And then of course, if we move on to any sort of sessions, especially in New Brunswick, I am a registered naturotherapist. So a lot of the work that I do in the mind is covered under a lot of health coverage plans for a lot of different people. So that's me. That's where I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. And I
Thank
wish
you so
you all
much.
the best. And
Yes.
thank you so much for helping other small businesses. It's
Yeah.
really important. So thank
I
you.
love what you're doing here. It's so important. Stay warm.
Thank you. Thank you.